goodness. Oh, you look cute. The shirt fits really good. Look. Good evening. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces virtual Good Friday service. My name is Sarah Reyes, and I will be today's moderator. Here's a couple of things that will help make our service run a little better. Number 1, please keep yourself muted and your video off during today's service. Number 2, we will turn off the congregation chat function throughout the worship service to minimize distractions. Number 3, you may widen your own screen through the split video option. This will make it easier to view service associates, lyrics on screen, as well as videos within the service. Finally, for the best audio service, we recommend using headphones if you're alone, or a Bluetooth speaker if you're in groups. Please enjoy today's service.
Good evening. I'm Kalani Kachela. We begin our service with a reading from Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? So far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, but I find no rest. Psalm 60. You have rejected us, God, and burst upon us. You have been angry, now restore us. You have shaken the land and torn it open. Mend its fractures, for it is quaking. You have shown your people desperate times. You have given us wine that makes us stagger. But for those who fear you, you have raised a banner to be unfurled against the bow. Save us and help us with your right hand, that those you love may be delivered. In Psalm 130, out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for mercy. I wait for the Lord, my whole being waits, and in this word I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than watchmen waiting for the morning. More than watchmen waiting for the morning. Amen.
O sacred head now wounded, with grief and shame bowed down, now scornfully surrounded, with thorns thy only crown. How art thou pale with anguish, with sore abuse and scorn? How does that visage languish, which once was bright as morn? What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend, for this thy dying sorrow, thy pity without end?
Good evening, and welcome to this Good Friday virtual worship service for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Haney Pearson, and I'm your service associate this evening, and I am delighted to be with you. Please remember that this Sunday we will explore the meaning of Easter as Unitarian Universalists living in a turbulent period of world history. We will also celebrate the 25th anniversary of Reverend Nancy J. Anderson's ordination during this worship service. Sherry also sent a notice for Camarada del Sol's virtual Easter serenade, which will take place next Saturday, April 10th at 7 p.m. You can view this performance on Facebook. Check your email for the proper webpage. Right?
I invite you now to join in a responsive reading from Psalm 22, verses 1 through 21. I'll read the regular text, and Haney will read the bold text along with you where you are. And we ask that you continue to remain muted. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me from the words of groaning?
Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night find no rest.
Yet you are holy, enthroned in the praises of Israel. In you, our ancestors trusted. They trusted, and you delivered them.
To you they cried and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame.
But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people.
All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one in whom he delights.
Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast.
On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God.
Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help.
Many bulls encircle me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening and roaring lion.
I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, it is melted within my breast.
My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaws. You lay me in the dust of the earth.
For dogs are all around me, a company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and feet are shriveled. I can count all my bones.
They stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots.
But you, O Lord, do not be far away. O my help, come quickly to my aid.
Deliver my soul from the sword, my life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble. tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to a tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb?
On Good Friday, we're reminded of the conditions of alienation, pain, suffering, and death as they crowd our lives and the lives of others. At this service, readings of crucifixions, ancient and modern, are followed by the darkening of our screens until the church is in darkness. This service does not end with a hymn or closing words. It simply stops. You may leave at any time of your choosing, but please leave the Zoom worship space in silence.
Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body by Rebecca Tausing. When I was finally able to sit in my losses, run my fingers over the precise ridges of pain, find language for the experience, that was also the moment I could take a deep breath, see myself and be seen, connect to the world of people who also exist in all spaces between life and death. Instead of devouring any bit of light in me, my grief brought into focus my scrappiness and the sturdy beauty of my friendships. It helped me piece together a roadmap to understand my anxiety. It gave me a fuller picture of my own strength.
Someone please tell Doug he's muted.
Okay, sorry about that. What the Pandemic Has Taught Me About Grief by Jessica Davis. Pause, pause for a thoughtful moment, but don't touch the coffin, says the celebrant. Touching the coffin isn't even an option for me as I tune in from afar to my first virtual funeral. I'm not sure if experiencing my first makes me lucky or not, considering there have been more than 126,000 deaths to date in the UK due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. If it does, what a horrifying reality we are living in. As I watch the screen and follow the order of service via a PDF, I think how the past year has changed what it truly means to grieve. Usually, it's such an emotionally charged and human aspect of life. Take funerals, a vital step in the grieving process, a service full of hugs, comfort, and tears, followed by a wake to celebrate that person. It's swapping stories, sometimes laughing. Instead, I sit exactly where I have spent most of the past year working, at my desk in my bedroom, alone.
There is no vaccine for grief by A.C. Shilton. Of course, even if you do not lose a family member or friend in the pandemic, that does not mean you will not experience grief. At its core, grief is a reaction to a change that you didn't want or ask for. Even those who have not lost family members are experiencing some level of loss in the pandemic. He said, from the disappointment of missing in-person experiences and holiday celebrations to the losses of our jobs and even our homes. The problem with comparisons in grief is if you win, you lose, Mr. Kessler said, adding, and the world is big enough for all our griefs.
It's time to face the collective grief of COVID 19. How do we help one another when everyone is grieving something? By Elaine Howard Eklund. A close friend said to me this week that it seems as if, quote, our entire nation is experiencing turbocharged grief and we don't know how to grieve, unquote. For many Americans of faith, the peak of the COVID 19 contagion is coinciding with our major holidays: Passover for Jews, Holy Week and Easter Sunday for Christians, and Ramadan beginning next week for Muslims. These holidays, while joyful, are also moments to grapple with what it is to be human and to remember profound loss.
Good Grief, but Not Good Enough by Pamela Jane Bell. When my husband began hospice care last spring, I decided to join a grief group. I thought it might be helpful to share stories and support with others who were facing the same heartbreak. I Googled grief groups and found one that met weekly at a local church. It looked as though I was just in time for the next session, so I called and spoke to the group leader. I'd like to join your grief group, I said. I'm so sorry for your loss, she repeated sympathetically. When did your loved one die? Uh, well, my husband hasn't exactly died yet. He has end-stage dementia, I explained. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I'm afraid you aren't eligible to join, she said. Our group is only for people whose friends or family members have actually died. I was so taken aback, all I could manage was an inarticulate, oh. I hung up and sat there stunned. I couldn't believe it. I had been rejected by a grief group. My grief wasn't good enough. It wasn't genuine, authentic grief. It was grief light, or I can't believe it's not grief.
A message
to White Unitarian Universalists by Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, President, UUA. This is a time in our country when so many insidious forces seek to divide us and give us false and empty dichotomies that only lead to more destruction. We need to remember our Unitarian Universalist values in this time, to remember that we are one in creation, one in God, as our Universalist forebears said. We are in this together, and we need each other to survive. These are frightening, devastating times. How we show up in this time and where we put our hearts, resources, and commitments will define who we are and what the future holds. We must all find ways to support the uprisings. We must find the sources within ourselves to give us courage in this moment, to resist, to risk, to sacrifice for this movement that needs all of us to survive, to succeed.
Our final reading of the seven, and the seven represent the seven last words of Jesus from the cross, comes from Mark 15, verses 1 through 39. Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. "Are you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate. "You have said so," Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things, so again Pilate asked him, "Aren't you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of." But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now it was the custom of the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man named Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionist who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. "Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?" asked Pilate, knowing it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. "What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked them. "Crucify him," they shouted. "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him!" Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. The soldiers led Jesus away into the place that is the praetorium and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him, then twisted a crown of thorns and set it on him. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Again and again they struck him on the head with a staff and spit on him. Falling on their knees, they paid homage to him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way to the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him, dividing up his clothes. They cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So, You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself. In the same way, the chief priest and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, this King of Israel, come down now from the cross that we may see and believe. Those crucified with him also heaped insults upon him. At noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing near heard this, they said, listen, he's calling Elijah. Someone ran, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to take him down, he said. With a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last breath. The curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus saw how he died, he said, surely this man was the Son of God.